Elliot said, he wanted to have a child as soon as possible. I wouldn't leave him for work like you do. So I told him I wanted to have a baby with him. I just listened to my friend's screams in a daze. We had many problems, but I still loved my husband. And I thought I had a good relationship with him. But it seems I was the only one who thought so. My name is Kyla. I am 30 years old. I am a system engineer by profession. A year ago, I got married to Elliot. We were good friends in college, but after graduation, we drifted apart for a while. We met again by chance 3 years ago, and have kept in touch since then. My husband can be a little bossy at times, but he is a cheerful and kind person. I was exhausted from my work, and I was attracted to his cheerful personality. About a year into our relationship, my husband asked me if I would like to live with him. I was feeling lonely because we didn't have time to see each other, so I gladly accepted the proposal. However, someone came along to put a stop to it. It was his mother. "No, it's not good. You shouldn't live together before marriage. If you want to live together, get married first." I was baffled when my mother-in-law said that. In some way, I thought my mother-in-law had a point, but I felt uncomfortable with the way she interfered with her 27-year-old adult son. I was raised by my parents to make my own decisions, and my parents always respected my wishes. Having been raised in this way, my mother-in-law's opinions were strange to me. But more than that, I couldn't understand how my husband obeys my mother-in-law's opinion. "Well, why don't we get married then?" We talked and talked. I learned that there are many people like my mother-in-law. In the end, I decided to marry my husband because I loved him and wanted to be with him. But it didn't stop there. My mother-in-law also began to meddle in our new home. "It should be close to my son's work. It should be close to my house." Not only that, she wanted us to buy a house. I couldn't take it anymore, so I decided to talk to my mother-in-law directly. "Elliot and I will talk about the house on our own. I'm saying this because I care about your future, "I know, I appreciate that. But we want to make our own decisions. My parents respected our opinion." Then my mother-in-law laughed at my words. It was like she was looking down on me. "I'm sorry to say this, but I think the reason your parents didn't interfere is that they don't care about you enough, don't they?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, your parents are doctors, right? And you are not." My mother-in-law's right. Both my parents are doctors. But I never wanted to be a doctor. My parents never told me to be a doctor either. I never thought that someone, my husband's mother, would say such a thing to me. When I was shocked and kept silent, my husband said to my mother-in-law, "Mom, that's enough." But my mother-in-law, not liking the fact that my husband defended me, became grumpy. There, she never spoke further. I have always felt that my mother-in-law and I don't get along, personality-wise. After that, my mother-in-law's opinion and mine continued to be at odds with each other. My husband, on the other hand, tries to put a good face on both sides. So there was no solutions at all. Finally, my husband found a new condo for us. It was convenient for my husband and my work, and also close to my in-laws' house. I was starting to feel sorry for my husband, who was caught between me and my mother-in-law. I was also getting tired and didn't want to prolong the problem. We settled on buying the condo that my husband had worked so hard to find for us. My mother-in-law reluctantly backed out after my father-in-law warned her about it. And yet, she was not happy that it was not a house. we spent most of our savings on a down payment for the condo. Still, we were happy with the convenience of the new place. But the battle between my mother-in-law and me had just begun. My mother-in-law had always interfered in many ways. I soon realized that she had been reserved before we got married. Right after we got married, she started sending me messages like this every day. Are the grandchildren here yet? When are you going to quit your job? The emotional strain was so bad that I talked to my husband about it. I don't think Mom means any harm. That's what my husband told me. I realized that my husband was unreliable when it came to my mother-in-law. I told my mother-in-law that we would decide what to do about the children on our own. And I told her I wasn't going to quit my job. Then she cried to my husband. I'm trying to do what's best for her, but she won't listen to me at all. Kyla must have hated me from the beginning. She's paranoid. My husband doesn't fully believe my mother-in-law, but Mom is a sensitive person, so please be a little more gentle with her. That's what my husband said. I realized that he doesn't know his own mother at all. I mean, how could she be so sensitive if she was so determined to push her opinions through? I was so fed up that I decided not to have anything to do with my mother-in-law. Whenever she said something to me, I would say, please ask my husband. But I didn't think I could live with this forever. Then, my boss told me about an overseas assignment. I definitely wanted to go, and I begged my husband to let me go abroad. He was reluctant at first, but I didn't give up trying to persuade him. Honey, I will try to build a better relationship with your mother when I came back. I finally convinced him, even though it was only for a year, and I was so happy with the opportunity. 6 months has passed, and my work has going well, and I was having a very rewarding time. Then I received a phone call from someone I wasn't expected. It's been a long time, Kyla. Remember me? Vicky! Of course I do. It's been a long time. What's up? It was Vicky from college. I hadn't seen Vicky since we graduated from college. I was happy to receive a call from an old friend, but I wondered why she called me. I'm dating Elliot. What? Elliot said he was breaking up with you. So, Kyla, if he says he wants a divorce, please don't be stubborn and divorce him. Vicky said something really shocking. What? Wait a minute. What do you mean you are dating Elliot? Does it mean you are having an affair? No, it's not just an affair. I've always loved him. All these years, you know? If you hadn't interfered, I would have had married Elliot. Vicky's words shocked me. Immediately, I remembered that I had heard a rumor that Vicky liked Elliot. But that was about 7 years ago, and Vicky had a boyfriend when we were in college. No wonder I had completely forgotten about it. Vicky was so upset that she began to speak in a rumbling manner, that she had been in love with my husband since we were in college. But he had a girlfriend, so she gave up and got a boyfriend of her own. And when she heard that Elliot had broken up with the girlfriend, she knew she wanted to be in a relationship with him this time. And before she knew, he was dating me and got married. I've always loved him. But now that you two are married, I thought I would finally have to give up this time. Then I heard that you left Elliot and went overseas. I just couldn't stand there and do nothing. I remember Vicky being rather innocent and quiet, so I was overwhelmed by her unexpected side. Vicky seemed to approach my husband as soon as she found out that I was assigned abroad. According to Vicky's story, My husband at first didn't take her seriously, but as a result of her intense approach, he started an affair with her. I'll pay you alimony, so you have to leave Elliot. Wait a minute. I'm still confused. This is too much to take in. I need time to sort things out, okay? Vicky was still saying something, but I hung up the phone. I got the impression from the phone call that Vicky was very attached to my husband. If I believe Vicky's story, she and my husband are having an affair. However, I felt it was dangerous to believe Vicky's stories only without hearing anything from my husband. In the meantime, I will contact my husband when I have a chance to make up my mind. I thought so, but I underestimated Vicky's love for him. Then Vicky sent me that audio data. When I listened to it, I found that my husband was saying he wanted to divorce me and remarry Vicky. I also received other evidence of the affair, such as compromising photos of the two. Vicky and my husband seemed to be very close to each other, literally. There were also files of the conversations among them, including my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law had always been opposed to my going abroad. Naturally, she wanted me to divorce Elliot and Vicky to remarry him. Their conversation was full of bad things about me. Hearing that, I knew I had no choice but to divorce my husband. But to get a divorce, I had to come back home for the formalities. But I was pretty occupied with work and couldn't take the time off. Just when I was in trouble, I received a call from my husband. I answered the call nervously. Hey, it's me, Carla. I filed for divorce. What? And I will take the house. You can stay there and work. Even if you come back, you won't have a home anymore, okay? I was speechless at this unexpected turn of events. What do you mean you filed for divorce? Isn't that too absurd? My husband's words took me by surprise at first. But at the same time, I was feeling a sense of joy. Now, Vicky wouldn't send me any more photos or audio data. My mind had been exhausted by the data that had been piling up without being able to erase it because it was evidence of their affair. The moment I thought that she would stop sending them to me, my heart became lighter. Okay, I understand. Okay? Yeah, we're getting a divorce, right? I'm okay with that. I readily and happily agreed. I guess he didn't expect that, and my husband was upset. Are you sure about this? We're getting a divorce. Yes, I'm sure. I heard rustling on the other end of the phone, and I heard my husband talking to someone. I thought it was Vicky, but it was my mother-in-law. He said she wanted to talk to me too. Hey, Kyler. Hi, it's been a while. As you probably heard from Elliot, but we're already in the process of getting divorced. And there is no home for you to come back to. My mother-in-law said the same thing as my husband. I didn't want to interrupt her, so I kept my mouth shut. My mother-in-law took advantage of my silence to say whatever she wanted. I was against your marriage from the beginning, you know. Leaving your husband to go abroad for work. It's beyond insane. I told you to have children as soon as possible, but you wouldn't listen to me. You are the reason for this divorce. Don't think you were going to get alimony. There were so many things I wanted to say to her, but I knew she was not the kind of person who listens to me. I was feeling like I was going crazy even just listening to her. Then I realized something. I'm divorced from my husband, which means that the person I'm talking to is a stranger to me. I don't have to care about her, and I don't have to listen to her. I've had enough of her over-involvement in my life, but I had to put up with it because she was my husband's mother. Now that we're strangers, I don't have to put up with anything anymore. Sorry, but can I go now?
I beg your pardon?
My mother-in-law voiced her displeasure at my interruption. I'm busy. I'll get off the phone now.
You, wait a minute.
No, I gotta go. I don't think I'll ever speak to you again. I wish you well. Ciao. My mother-in-law was still saying something, but I didn't care and hung up. I was so exhilarated. I loved my husband, but I knew I couldn't continue to be married to him. I felt refreshed. But the story didn't end there. After 3 months passed, my ex-husband started calling me over and over again like crazy. At first, I ignored the calls. But then I decided that if he was calling this often, then something terrible must have happened. I decided to answer the phone.
Kyla, thank God.
What is it? You've been calling a lot.
I need you.
For a moment, I didn't understand what my ex-husband was saying. All I understood was that I shouldn't answer the phone.
We can't start over. It's not too late.
What do you mean, it's not too late? You didn't file for divorce?
I did. But why don't we just get married again?
I tried not to laugh. Come to think of it, my ex-husband doesn't know that I know about his infidelity. Married again? You married Vicky, didn't you?
What? How did you know?
Vicky sent me a picture of the two of you holding the marriage certificate. Don't tell me you and Vicky are divorced already.
What? No, not yet.
They're not divorced yet. Well, I guess that should be true. 'Cause Vicky was so obsessed with you. I don't think she would agree to divorce you so easily after all.
Well, but all you have to do is file for divorce, right?
I'm telling you, it's not a good idea.
Then what am I supposed to do?
Why don't you just be happy with Vicky? She seems to be good with your mom. Above all, she loves you very much, doesn't she? I had a lot of bad things to say about my cheated ex-husband, but I didn't want anything to do with him anymore.
I don't want to be with her anymore. That's impossible. Vicky deceived on me.
Deceived? What do you mean? I asked my ex-husband in doubt. He thought he could get a lot of money by marrying Vicky. I had a pretty good idea about the money.
Vicky showed me the amount of money she was saving to be with me. But as soon as we got married, she said she didn't have it because she used it to marry me.
Yeah, that's alimony for me. For Elliot. Didn't understand what that meant, so I kindly explained to him what it meant. You see, Vicky has prepared a large alimony payment for me.
What? Why is that so?
So that I wouldn't say, give Elliot back.
I don't understand.
I mean, that's how much she loves you. I'm so glad she loves you that much. Yes. The truth was, Vicky told me from the first time she contacted me that she would pay me alimony if I would divorce him. I didn't believe her words, but Vicky contacted me again when she found out about our divorce and wanted to pay me alimony. I gave her my bank account info, and she paid me $60,000. I was so surprised that I contacted Vicky, and she told me, "Take the money, but you have to stay away from Elliot forever." I contacted her several times after that, but her answer was always the same. I was at a loss, so I asked a friend for advice. If she says she'll give it to you, why don't you just take it? Also, you haven't even divided the property, have you? That was right. So I decided to take it. I am sure if I asked for a share of the property and alimony for the affair, it would have amounted to quite a lot of money. But $60,000 from her
was still too much. It would be best not to tell my ex-husband about it. That's not right. Give me back my money. It's not your money. It's Vicky's money. If she wants it back, I'll pay back what she paid more than the market price. Really? You will? Then Vicky's voice came from behind my ex-husband.
Elliot?
My ex-husband quickly hung up the phone. I never heard from him again. After a while, one of my college friends told me that Vicky was very restrictive and had erased my contact information from his phone. When he told her about the alimony, she went crazy and asked him if he was just looking for money. Not only that, but Vicky was also jealous of my ex-mother-in-law. The good relationship they had before their marriage seems to have turned hostile toward each other. My ex-husband seems to be mentally trapped by Vicky's restrictive behavior. My mother-in-law thought she had found the perfect wife for her son this time, but she must have been wrong. She now has trouble even communicating with her beloved son. I think it's tragic just to hear about it. If I had not gone abroad at that time, it might have been even more tragic. When I think about it, every day I am so glad that I left. I recently have been offered to extend my overseas assignment from 1 year to 3 years. Of course, I immediately agreed. I am now living a rewarding life dedicated to my work. Thank you for watching till the end. Please subscribe to our channel if you like. See you in the next video.
My mother-in-law selfishly decides to move in with us to make her slave, but she doesn't know.
My package will deliver to your house next week. Make sure you receive them. I'm moving in with you to educate you as a decent wife to my son. Make sure I get my own room, okay? That's what my mother-in-law said when she called me out of the blue. Move in? Educate me? What the hell was she talking about? My husband hadn't said anything about moving in with my in-laws. And what's the big deal about educating me? Who the hell does she think she is? And the next week, she really moved in. But when she saw her son in a house, she screamed. And there, she would find out the truth about who needs to be educated, and that the house where she lives are nowhere to be found. My name is Krista. I've been married for 2 years. I met my husband Eddie through a friend, and we hit it off. After 3 years of dating, we got married. We are both working, but each of us had lived alone before, so both of us are capable of doing a full range of household chores. Therefore, after we got married, we decided to divide the household chores among us, whoever had more time taking the lead. This seems to have worked well for us. We have never had a problem. But recently, as my work has become busier, my husband's share has increased a little. I felt a little bad about that, even though it was a rule we had decided on together. So I sometimes bought a cake for him on my way home from work, or by eating out on weekends and treating him a nice meal. I feel like I'm bribing, but my husband is always kind to me and says, "I'm happier this way, don't worry." I always think that I married a really good husband. I hope those happy days will continue for the rest of my life. Just as I was living my life like that, my father-in-law passed away. It was sad, but my husband accepted it as inevitable to some extent. For my mother-in-law, who had been with him for many years, it wasn't that easy. It's very hard for her to be alone because of the loneliness of losing her husband so suddenly. She began to visit us frequently. On weekdays, she comes after my husband and I finish our work. And weekends, she sometimes comes in the morning. to be honest. It's tough for us that she visits us in the morning on our days off because we're tired from work. But I can't neglect my grieving mother-in-law either. So I decided to stay by her side until her wounds heal and she can recover. As I continued this lifestyle, I realized something. The reason for my mother-in-law's visits had somehow changed. In the beginning, we would just have tea and chit-chat. It was about the world news or our work, or how well I was getting along with my husband. I didn't mention my father-in-law because I wasn't sure whether it was appropriate to bring him up or not. When the conversation turned to my father-in-law, she would sometimes shed a tear or two at the memory of him. I quietly stood by her through those times. But lately, she's been talking more and more about me and my housework. Giving me advice is one thing, but basically warnings. The fridge is not organized. Laundry is not done in a proper way. Too many frozen foods or prepared food. I have often heard such comments. It's true that we share the household chores, so we can't do anything too elaborate with our meals. Perhaps it's because my husband and I are both a bit on the clumsy side. But I've never really paid much attention to such things. Even about having kids, we don't think about it yet. I understand what my mother-in-law is trying to say. If only she would overcome her loneliness and visit us less often, then I would be able to take care of the housework better. I didn't dare to tell her that. Yes, I'm sorry. I just nodded my head and said that. One day, on a holiday, my mother-in-law came to my house as usual. And when she saw my husband washing the dishes, she suddenly shouted at me, "Eddie, why are you doing the dishes? Stop it. Krista, you should be the one doing it. You are the wife." I froze in my tracks. But my mother-in-law doesn't care about that. She took the dishes out of my husband's hands, sat him down on a sofa, and pulled me to my feet. I was a little irritated as I was forced to stand in front of a kitchen, but I try to speak as calmly as I can. Hey, we both work. You know that, right? That's why we share the household chores. Today, Eddie happens to be the one doing the dishes. So I don't leave everything to him. So, don't talk back to me. I try to explain, but my mother-in-law wouldn't listen. She wouldn't even try to understand. If my husband could at least explain it to her, maybe she would be a little more open to it. I looked at my husband with such hope. He nodded as if he understood. I felt a little relieved that everything would be all right. But my relief was short-lived. Then came the unexpected words from my husband's mouth. "Hey, Mom, it's not good for your health to be so upset. But I think you have a point. I'll make sure Krista gets it right from now on. Krista, you should apologize to Mom, too." He looked at me. What? What the hell? Why don't you just tell her that we are sharing the chores? I wanted to say so, but I felt there was no point in arguing with my mother-in-law. Well, I'll be careful from now on. I apologized to my mother-in-law and put the matter to rest. After my mother-in-law left, I confronted my husband. What the hell do you think you were doing? Why am I the bad guy here? If you were like that, there's no way she would understand. You could have told her directly, and she would have understood. Why did you say something like that? Sensing my anger, my husband said. That's not what I meant. He started to make excuses. I was just trying to smooth things over. I'm sure Mom wouldn't understand if I told her about we share the chores. You know, she's not a modern type. You know I'm on your side. That I didn't agree with her on this matter. She'll understand someday, you know.
That's what my husband said. We've known each other long enough to know that's not how he really feels. In fact, I think he was hoping that he wouldn't have to do the housework at all. My husband was always a little cunning. However, he had never been a person who has been rude to me or annoyed others. That's why I was so angry at him for not showing remorse. But I was tired, so I kept quiet and let the day pass. Well, we had shared the chores up to that point, all right. I had such faint hope that things would be back to normal tomorrow. But since that day, my husband has been blatantly skipping chores. He doesn't do the housework like he used to. I thought he was sulking because I had confronted him about his mother. But I don't think that's the case. So I decided to give him a warning. But my husband responded with an unexpectedly simple answer. Oh, okay. Sorry. Well, sometimes you just don't feel like doing it. The next day, my mother-in-law came to see me without any notice. She had at least contacted me before, but today she didn't. What was going on? Was she in some kind of trouble? I was a bit worried. What my mother-in-law told me was something else entirely. I see you still haven't done your chores. Don't you want your husband to eat well, do you? I just got a call from my son. Krista doesn't cook. I haven't had a home-cooked meal in a while. See? Eddie texted me. I couldn't help but glare at my husband. Did this guy just tip off his mother behind my back? No. I didn't do anything wrong in the first place. It was a calculated attempt to make me look completely bad just because he didn't want to do his chores. His plan worked, because as a result, my mother-in-law came over more often than before. My husband stopped doing chores altogether. I had to come home from work and do the chores that my husband was supposed to do, who comes home earlier than I do. If I wasn't so busy at work, I could handle the housework with ease. But my work has not yet left the busy season, so I have to cut back on my sleep and do both work and housework every day. Physically, I was reaching my limit. I thought I would collapse if I didn't do something, so I decided to talk to my husband about my mother-in-law again. However, at an inopportune time, my husband became busy with his work a little while ago. I couldn't find the time to talk to my husband properly anymore. I thought that with both of us working, it couldn't be helped. But my husband's work schedule was oddly unusual. It became normal for him to come home after midnight on weekdays. Even on his days off, he sometimes works all day long. In the worst case, he would stay overnight at the office because he thought it was a waste of time to come home. Just the other day, I was thinking of talking with my husband about chores. Now I'm starting to worry that he's working too much. So whenever I could see him in the house, I would ask him, "Are you okay?" "Yeah, why? I feel fine." He replies with a tireless face. It's good to know he's fine, but isn't he too energetic? If my husband is really working so hard, I should be able to see a little bit of fatigue on his face. I wondered if he had so much energy to spare. If the company is forcing my husband to work that hard, wouldn't they be violating the labor standards law? With this in mind, I decided to talk to my colleague Anne. Anne has a family member who works for the same company as my husband. But when I told Anne about it, she gave me a suspicious look. It's certainly a busy season right now, but I don't think they work that hard. It may vary from department to department. It's not like it used to be, you know?
So my husband's hard work is a complete lie? Well, at least we know something doesn't add up. Oh yes, could this be? My husband doesn't come home from work. I've been so busy with work that I haven't been able to keep up with the housework. The house was a wretched mess. Tomorrow is my first day off in a long time. I could clean up this mess if I devoted my day off. I had planned it like that, but my mother-in-law came at the wrong time. What's with this room? I can't believe that the moment I entrusted you with the housework, the house turned out like this. No wonder you forced my son to do the housework. No, we only share the housework. I was about to say that when I thought back. That's right. There was no point in arguing with this mother-in-law. As I was brooding over this, my mother-in-law made a face as if she had just thought of something. I just remembered what I have to do. I'm going home for the day. With that, she headed for the front door. I was expecting her to be angrier. What was she thinking? But if she was going to leave, there was nothing I could do about it. But a few days later, my mother-in-law told me something even more frightening. Hello? Oh, my package will be delivered to your house next week. Make sure you receive them. If I see that messy room, I have to do something. I'm gonna educate you as a decent wife to my son. You should be grateful that I am moving in with you. Make sure I get my own room, okay? I answered the phone when my mother-in-law called, and she said those selfish things. She didn't even discuss the move with me. She just called to let me know that her stuff was on its way. I really wish she just stopped taking advantage of me like this. If you are to do this, I have a plan. I decided to carry out a plan I'd had in mind for a long time. The day her stuff arrives, and my mother-in-law moves in, I got a call on my cell phone from my mother-in-law. I ignored it because I couldn't be bothered to answer it. The calls kept coming in, over and over again, endlessly. I had no choice but to answer it. And then I heard my mother-in-law's crazy voice in the other end of the line. What the hell is going on here? Where are you? And who the hell is this woman with my son? I couldn't help but laugh, as I never heard my mother-in-law's restless voice like that. What's so funny? I had to laugh. I didn't expect the plan to go so well. The truth is, I wasn't home that day. I told my husband I was going away for a trip for 3 days. I knew that he would bring his lover into the house with him. When there was a discrepancy between my husband's busy schedule and the information I had received from a colleague, I ordered a background check from a credit agency. On weekdays, he used the company car to go to his lover's house. On weekends, they were to gather in hotels or far away from home. To top it all off, he was even getting paid overtime for the time he spent cheating on her. So I bet a man like that would call his lover when he heard his wife was going away for a while. But then, my mother-in-law and the movers arrived to show my mother-in-law the shameful affair scene of her son. This was my plan. The phone still connected me to my mother-in-law. I told my mother-in-law all about it. She was speechless. I can only hear her gasping for breath. I would have loved to see the expression on her face. The 3 days trip was also a fake, by the way. I was visiting the real estate office to sign a contract for a new house and cancel the lease on my current house. I was in the middle of it when I got a call from my mother-in-law. So I have been keeping the realtor waiting. I am busy with the cancellation of my lease. So, I'll just say what I want to say. You made fun of me and said I needed to be educated. Do you know who needs to be educated here? You also said that a woman should do the housework. But who do you think pays the rent? Me. Your son did the housework because I was busier than him and made more money. But he is very busy having fun with another woman right now, isn't it? Whatever. As for divorce and alimony, I will contact you through my lawyer later. Don't get involved with me again. As I was about to hang up the phone, my mother-in-law was crying and pleading with me. No, I just canceled the lease on my old house. Where will I live when this house is gone? Well, you've been happily blaming me all this time. Now you turn to me when things go wrong. It's none of my business. Talk to your idiot son. I hung up the phone. After a while, my husband and I divorced. I was able to get alimony from him and the person he cheated on me with. There are good lawyers in the world. Also, my ex-husband was fired from his job, along with the cheating partner, as a matter of course. I heard through the lawyer that he was dumped by her soon after. I would have liked to see two idiots get together and live a life of misery. But I thought that would be a little too harsh to wish for. Instead, the lawyer told me an interesting story. There's still one mystery left in this story. One of the reasons why my ex-husband was so energetic. Maybe the adrenaline rushed from the fun of the affair. But the biggest factor of all was that he was using a lot of over-the-counter drugs. It was ridiculously simple. But as it turned out, my ex-husband had developed some internal organ problems as a side effect to the drugs. He was no longer able to work as hard as he used to. I guess you can't overdose on anything. I don't know how or where, or even if they are still alive. But that's not my problem anymore. I'm enjoying my new life of freedom. Thank you for watching to the end. Please subscribe to our channel if you like. See you in the next video.
My mother-in-law pressured me to get a divorce after I gave birth to twins. But when she found out what I do for work...
My name is Gloria. I am 33 years old. 2 years ago, I married my husband Andy. We lived together in an apartment, sharing the household chores. There was a time when I believed we could have happy married life. But after we got married, the ideal life was not there. I knew that Andy and I would have different values. I thought that we would gradually adjust to each other's values. But the problem was not there, but my mother-in-law. It happened in the first month of our marriage. I was going to work in the morning as usual. Suddenly, my mother-in-law came to our house and said to me, What are you doing this early in the morning? Are you going out somewhere, Gloria? When I answered that I was going to work, my mother-in-law rolled her eyes in surprise. You are married, aren't you? You are Andy's wife now. What are you thinking? Going to work? She suddenly yelled at me, and instead of helping me, my husband said, I'm gonna be late for work. See ya. He left me like that. I didn't know what to do, but I told my mother-in-law, I'm going to be late for work too, so... That's when my mother-in-law changed. Going to work? Are you serious? You are a wife now. Do your duty as a wife. You're supposed to trust your husband and leave the work to him. My mother-in-law kept interrupting me at the door. I tried to get out of her way. I'm sorry, but I have to go. Please, use the key and put it in the mailbox when you leave. With that, I forced my mother-in-law to take the key and went to work. However, I made the mistake of letting my mother-in-law stay at home that day. When I came home after work, my mother-in-law was still there. As soon as I entered the room, she said to me, "Sit down, right there." She yelled at me with a stern look in her eyes, and I, startled by the force of her words, fearfully obeyed her. Then my mother-in-law droned on and on about what a wife should be like. It was all the same old values. When Andy came home, in the middle of the lecture, she made him sit down as well. "You are a husband, so show some dignity. If your wife does whatever she wants, your family will fall apart." Andy apologized repeatedly to his mother. I couldn't understand why Andy was so weak against his mother. Times have changed, and my mother-in-law's values are hers alone. It's none of our business. And yet, she came in early in the morning and caused trouble for us. Moreover, she wants me to quit my job. No matter how you look at it, there was no point in obeying my mother-in-law's words. And yet, I felt very uncomfortable, would do as he was told. I complained to him after my mother-in-law left. "Why are you always listening to your mother? She's just pushing her ideal family on us. It's not right to be forced like this. It's absurd." But Andy seemed to have a weakness for his mother all his life. "I'm sorry, but I can't rebel if she insists. Can't you do as Mom says, just this once?" My husband asked me such a thing. "That's impossible. You know how important my job is, don't you? The next time your mother comes over, I want to let her in the house." No, you can't do that. Mom will get angry, and she'll say it's the husband's fault for not being able to control his wife. Andy's words made me angry again. But it's the truth, isn't it? We are in this mess because you never stand up to your mother. Can you at least talk to your father about it and make your mother stop doing whatever she wants? But Mom doesn't listen to Dad either, so... See? Don't you see that your mother is full of contradictions? She said that if a wife does whatever she wants, the family will fall apart. She's the one who is destroying the family. When I said that, my husband got upset. "Don't speak badly about my mom." He glared at me, which was rare. If you can afford to have that kind of attitude, I hope you'll show some strength in front of your mother too. But it's my fault that I chose Andy as my husband. And I still love him after all. I decided to do my best to get along with my mother-in-law from now on. To begin with, all of my previous boyfriends have been the bossy type. To be honest, I had a lot of bad experiences with them. So I thought that Andy, who is quiet and gentle at heart, would make me happy. In reality, he was too reserved and unreliable, which was a disadvantage. I decided to believe that I could change the situation if it was up to me. Since then, I try to do my housework and job perfectly. Still, sometimes my mother-in-law would come over and complain to me. "Aren't you neglecting the housework because you're both working?" When she said that, I asked her to take a look at every inch of the house. "What do you think? I'm doing a good job with the housework, aren't I? Is there any part of the house that I have to fulfill my responsibilities anymore?" When I said that, my mother-in-law made a frustrated face and refuted me. "Isn't Andy helping you, is he?" My mother-in-law glares at Andy, saying that. Andy turned pale and roughly shook his head sideways. He seems never lied to his mother. So, my mother-in-law believes 100% of Andy's statements. As a matter of fact, I make Andy do the housework. It's our secret that I make him lie in front of his mother. And my mother-in-law doesn't seem to notice at all. But at first, my husband couldn't do any housework at all. So I taught him how to do housework myself. As she puts on her shoes, my mother-in-law said in frustration, "Even if it's good now, it doesn't mean this is gonna last. I'm gonna get proof. I swear to God." Well. You're such a persistent person. I was going to let us continue in this style, but my mother-in-law still comes at random times each week, and she's still a pain in the butt. "Hey, this corner is too dusty. See? I knew it. You were not doing enough housework because you were working. Quit the job and take care of the house." This kind of life went on for 2 years. To be honest, I was getting tired of this marriage. It's stressful just to have her come over every once in a while to check on the housework. And then she checks the fridge and even the wardrobe. I wonder how much she can drive people crazy. That day, my mother-in-law came over as usual and started rummaging through the fridge. "What? You don't have anything in here. You can't even cook a decent meal for Andy. Quit the job already." That's when Andy came home with a big shopping bag in both hands. What a bad timing. My mother-in-law was shocked to see him and started to make a big fuss. "My God, Gloria! What were you thinking to make a husband help with the housework?" "Oh, well, with all due respect, this kind of thing is the norm nowadays. Families with old-fashioned ideas like you are rather decreasing." When I said that, my mother-in-law's face turned red and she started yelling at me. You do whatever you want and mess up with everything. Disgusting. And you too, Andy. Why do you let her do this? Man up. Andy's face is turning pale. He puts the shopping bags on the floor, rolls his shoulders, and remains silent. He really is a pathetic guy, I thought to myself. Then I spoke back to my mother-in-law in a strong tone of voice. "I've been thinking about this for a long time, but isn't this impolite? Andy and I are on equal footing as husband and wife. Both of us treat each other with respect. We have decided not to put the burden on either side. And I will continue to work, even if we have children. At that time, I will ask Andy to participate in raising our child. We are our own family, separate from your family. So, I don't want you to interfere too much." Then my mother-in-law shook her head and said, "I'm done with this house." Then she left. Andy apologized to me with a frightened attitude. "I'm sorry, I didn't say anything back." "You don't need to apologize. I've accepted that you were like that long ago. Don't worry about your mother. Just be yourself as you are. And I love you." Andy nodded with tears in his eyes when I said that. Since then, I haven't had any contact with my mother-in-law, and she doesn't come to the house suddenly anymore. One day, I got sick and took a day off from work. I decided to go to the hospital, just in case to check something. I took a pregnancy test, and I got a positive result. When I went to the OBGYN for the proper test, at 5 weeks pregnant, we found out that we were having twins. I was the first to break the news to Andy. He was overjoyed. We called each other's parents, and everyone congratulated us. My mother-in-law came to our house for the first time in a long time, and with a smile I had never seen before, she said to me, "Congratulations, Gloria. From now on, I will support you in any way I can. Please don't hesitate to ask me." For the first time, my mother-in-law was smiling at me. I could honestly say my thanks to her. Then the morning sickness got worse. With twins, I took maternity leave early. I was to return to work a year after the birth. In the meantime, I did the housework as much as I could. Andy, my parents, and sometimes my in-laws came to the house to help me out. We found out that both our children were girls. My mother-in-law immediately bought baby items, even though the due date had not yet come. I didn't want her to give me toys that a 5-year-old would use so early. But I smiled and thanked my mother-in-law for her kindness. She seemed to be in a good mood. Just as I was enjoying such a peaceful moment, my mother-in-law said to me out of the blue, "So, now, Andy can finally have a decent family." Huh? What did you say? I was bothered by my mother-in-law's words and asked back, "Well, what do you mean by that?" "I'm saying, you are going to be a housewife, right? I mean, finally. Andy might have a hard time because it's a twin, but I guess he will be even motivated to work harder at his job. You will support Andy and to be a good mother to the kids. That's what a decent family is." My mother-in-law's words disgusted me. I sighed and wondered if I would have to continue to fight with her for the rest of my life. Then I told her the truth with a blank expression on my face. "I'm going back to work after my maternity leave." "What? You are not lying to surprise me, are you?" "No, I'm not. Also, after I return to work, Andy is gonna quit his job. It's been decided that Andy will become a full-time stay-at-home father." "Huh? What nonsense are you talking about? You are a mother, and you don't want to raise your children?" "Well, my income is higher than Andy's. Of course, I'll support him while I work. We both thought it would be better for our children." Then my mother-in-law began to tremble. She turned her face to me with anger, as I'd never seen before. "Impossible. That's unforgivable. I didn't raise Andy to be unhappy. Divorce. I will make him divorce you for sure." My mother-in-law said so and ran out of the apartment as if she was running away. When Andy came home from work, he had a grim look on his face. "Mom was so annoying. She called me while I was at work. She said it was wrong what we decided. I don't know what she'll do. She might do something crazy." "Gloria, why don't you go back to your parents' house for a while and have the twins there?" That's what my husband suggested. It's rare for Andy to suggest something. Even when he proposed to me, he showed me the engagement ring while trembling and couldn't even say, "Will you marry me?" I was glad of his kindness and courage. "Well, I'll take your words for it and do so. I told my parents about the situation, and I was going to have the babies in my hometown. While I was there, I called Andy every day. I remembered the time when we were dating. Back then, we didn't see each other very often, so we used to call each other like this. My mother-in-law was still furious and even brought divorce papers. Of course, Andy assured her that he would never divorce me. And he even made me another suggestion. I was able to spend my day with peace of mind. It was so unimaginably painful. But Andy held my hand and cheered me up the whole time. I gave birth to our baby girls. Andy stayed at my parents' house until things settled. After a while, he returned to the apartment on his own. Then, I received a phone call from my mother-in-law. "Hello, Gloria? Only Andy came back and didn't say anything about you. You're not going to come back here, are you?" For some reason, my mother-in-law is at our apartment. "I am coming home tomorrow with the babies." "No, don't come back. I don't want to see your face. You and Andy are getting a divorce anyway. Why don't you stay there with your parents? Andy went there to talk about divorce, right?" My mother-in-law said that in an excited tone. So I chuckled and said, "Please, don't worry. But I don't think Andy will see you anymore." When I said that, my mother-in-law replied after a short pause, "What? What are you talking about? So, haven't you heard from Andy? It means that you and Andy are no longer mother and son. Andy went back to the apartment first to pack. We're moving out tomorrow. Have you seen any cardboard boxes for moving?" "No, I haven't seen anything like that. The room looks clean, but that's because Andy worked so hard to clean it." Then I faintly heard Andy's voice from the other end of the phone. It was as if the call was put on speaker, and Andy's voice became clear. "Sorry, Gloria. I didn't expect Mom to call you." "It's okay. Don't worry about it. What about the packing?" "Yeah, almost done. I thought it would be troublesome if Mom came and made a fuss, so I hid the boxes in the closet." "Well, that's great. I'm sorry I made you do all that." As we were saying that, my mother-in-law started yelling. "What the hell are you talking about? Andy, don't tell me you were moving? And you were cutting tie with me? No." I was about to tell her the truth when... "No, you shut up, Mom. I've had enough. All you do is impose your own rules on us. You don't know how much trouble you are causing us. I'm sick of it. That's why we've decided to cut ties with you. And when did you even make a duplicate key? Without our permission? Give it to me so I can return them to the management company." Andy said that to his mother once and for all. "What? Andy? You're divorcing Gloria, aren't you? Why are you saying that to me?" "Divorce? I never said I'm divorcing Gloria. Gloria earns more than me. Didn't she told you before? If Gloria became a housewife, we can't have a decent family. The girls would have to put up with a lot. But it's just one woman's income. Gloria's father and brother may indeed be running a company, but they have nothing to do with her, right?" Then I opened my mouth. "You know, I didn't tell you because I thought you would make a big fuss if I did. I work for my brother's company. He's going to start another company soon, and I am supposed to take over his company then." "Huh? You mean a woman will be the president?" "Yes, president. But for now, I have other members supporting the company. I'll be back after maternity leave." I think we've talked about this before, you know? Yes, I had told her about this, but it was during our wedding greeting, and she may have forgotten. My mother-in-law seemed to have become unable to answer anything and continued to be silent for a long time. Then Andy said, "Oh, by the way, Barry works for Gloria's brother's company. If you have that kind of attitude, what will happen to Barry?" Barry is Andy's second brother, and he's a sales manager at my brother's company. The world is a small place, and I met Barry at the wedding and found out he was Andy's brother. Then my mother-in-law said with a tremor in her voice, "Oh my God, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I swear. So please, don't fire Barry. He's having a hard time with 3 kids right now. So please." I almost laughed. No, I can't fire an employee that easily, just because Andy threatened to. But really, please, don't meddle in our family anymore. Well, we're cutting ties with you, so it doesn't matter anymore, huh? My mother-in-law was still ranting, but Andy seemed to have forcibly hung up the phone. The next day, my parents dropped me off at my new house with the twins. The movers had already finished moving the furniture and boxes. Andy unpacked, and my parents helped out everything away. After a while, my father-in-law came to our house. After Andy cut off my mother-in-law, my father-in-law decided to give up on her too. My mother-in-law's imposition of her old values was not only on Andy, but also on my father-in-law and Andy's 2 brothers. It seemed that the whole family was affected as much as we were. This time, Andy, who was the quietest and most obedient to my mother-in-law, rebelled against her, and the sons declared their isolation to her one after another. My father-in-law also left the house and is now preparing for divorce with a lawyer. My mother-in-law has been abandoned by all the family members. Andy quit his job and has been doing his best to take care of the twins. I am also doing my best every day with what I can. After all, when I think about our children's tuition and other future expenses, it is better for me to work than for Andy to work. No matter what anyone says, I will respect the policy that Andy and I decided on as a couple. We will continue to build a happy family of our own. Thank you for watching to the end. Please subscribe to our channel if you like. See you in the next video.
I was left alone in a shabby house and abandoned by my husband and mother-in-law after giving birth. I never knew that my mother-in-law was.
It's not good to have you around. From now on, you will live alone in this house.
Soon after the baby was born, my husband brought me to a shabby apartment near his parents' house. No, I can't live here by myself. This is crazy. Give my baby back.
Quiet, Kelly. You're disturbing the neighbors.
My mother-in-law, standing by my husband's side, ignored my pleas with a stern expression, and I was at my wits' end, helpless to do anything about it. And to make matters worse, my mother-in-law behaved in the most unthinkable way. She started leaving food scrap in front of that shabby apartment every day. With nowhere to throw it away, the bags of garbage piled up. Then I opened one of them and found something I couldn't believe. I'm Kelly, a 33 years old housewife. My husband Walter and I have been married for 3 years. We were looking forward to the birth of our first child. But the birth of the baby was accompanied by anxiety. The reason was Walter's extravagant spending and temperamental nature. and my relationship with my mother-in-law. My father-in-law has already passed away and live with my mother-in-law. But my mother-in-law and I don't get along, and she's always sarcastic. What? The way you folded the laundry. It will get weird wrinkles like this. Why can't you even do it properly? Just do it again. But the other day, you told me to fold them like this.
What? You're blaming me?
Then my mother-in-law knocks the laundry I folded onto the floor. She is very thorough and picky in her housework, and she changes what she says almost every time. Then she complains about it as if it's my fault. Kelly, why are you such a bad learner? And when my husband overhears me talking with my mother-in-law, he gets in a bad mood.
What the hell is wrong with you? Put yourself in my shoes, coming from work and having to listen to this all the time.
He would hit things and yell at me.
Walter is cold towards me,
but for some reason, he's very obsessed with me. I have a cell phone, but the only contacts I have are with Walter and my in-laws. My internet browsing is constantly monitored. And of course, he's using GPS to track my location. Even before we got married, I knew he was a jealous person. But after we got married, I started to think about divorce because his jealousy just got worse. One day, I went shopping and called the lawyer's office from a payphone. I explained the situation to the lawyer and somehow started to work toward divorce. Fortunately, I had some savings before our marriage, and the lawyer was sympathetic to my situation.
Let's make sure the divorce goes through. As for the remuneration, you can pay me in installments once you have a stable living situation,
the lawyer kindly said to me. I thought that the divorce was proceeding smoothly. Then one day, I noticed that I had not been feeling well for several days. I rushed to the hospital and found out that I was pregnant. I had been taking pills to abort pregnancy in order to get a divorce, but my husband hid them from me once. I must have gotten pregnant then. I was torn between joy at having a child and anger at him. My parents had already passed away, so I had no home to go back to. In addition, my morning sickness was so severe that I was unable to take any action for divorce. Walter seemed convinced that having a child would keep me from running away. Or maybe he's just really happy to have a child, and he'd softened his attitude.
We'll have to remodel this house. If it's a boy, he should be an athlete. And if it's a girl, we'll have to raise her to be a good wife and a wise mother.
My husband says these things and develops selfish theories about education. I thought to myself, I'll divorce you after the baby is born though. I gave a vague answer and let it slide for a while. My mother-in-law was as mean as ever toward me, but there was a slight change in her attitude.
If something happens to you, the neighbors will misunderstand that I did something to you. So, Kelly, stop worrying and concentrate on the baby. Why did Walter even marry this woman? You know, Kelly, honestly, I want you to leave. But I'll take care of you until the baby is born.
Somehow, I was able to rest because she didn't force me to do the housework like before. My morning sickness was pretty bad.
What the hell, Kelly? What can you eat then? You're such a pain in the ass.
My mother-in-law kept complaining to me, but she did make meals for me. But in the end, I almost became malnourished, and I had to spend some time in the hospital before the baby was born. And I gave birth to a healthy baby boy. I was about to contact a lawyer to get a divorce from Walter when I noticed that my bank book was missing. Moreover, my diary which I had intended to hand over to the lawyer, was also missing. It has a record of harassment from Walter and my mother-in-law. Walter? I heard Walter's voice behind me.
Is this what you're looking for?
I turned around to see Walter standing there, grinning and holding the diary I had hidden away.
What on earth were you writing in it? Even looking at?
Give it back.
Shut up. What the hell were you doing behind my back, Kelly?
I'm preparing for a divorce. I can't live with people like you any longer. Someone who breaks things and yells and tries to subdue me. Divorce me, please. It wasn't exactly what I had planned, but I made up my mind to ask him for a divorce.
Divorce? Yeah, I can do that. But leave the kid.
With that, Walter took me by the hand and walked out. He drove me to a shabby apartment near my parents-in-law's house.
It's not good to have you around. From now on, you will live alone in this house. As long as you live here, I'll let you see your kid once a week. But if you leave, you'll never see him again.
No, this is crazy. Give my baby back. Then my mother-in-law came out from behind him and said to me, Quiet, Kelly. You are disturbing the neighbors. My mother-in-law is holding my son. I'm looking at my son's face in her arms, and I'm trying to think. I have to get out of this situation somehow. I thought desperately, but no answer came to me. In the meantime, I was stuck in that shabby apartment. Walter had found out while I was in the hospital that I was planning to get a divorce. He had taken my baby hostage. I now had no choice but to live in this shabby apartment. A few days later, things turned an unexpected way. I noticed a strange odor wafting through the air. I looked for the source of the smell and found, and there was a garbage dumped in front of the apartment. I couldn't believe my eyes, but I soon realized that it was my mother-in-law. I looked up and saw my mother-in-law standing in front of the door with my son in her arms.
Oh, Kelly, you just woke up? Just because we are taking care of your baby doesn't mean you are not a responsible mother. Well, that's all right. Can you leave them at your place until garbage day?
Huh? What on earth does this person want? I tried my best to wrap my head around my mother-in-law's nonsensical behavior. First of all, I have to get the child back and contact a lawyer. That's what I thought. And somehow I managed to find an opportunity to do so. A few days passed in the meantime. Meanwhile, every morning there was a garbage dumped in front of my room. What did I do to deserve this? I was getting angry. As I was about to carry the garbage bag, I noticed that the bag was transparent, whereas it was usually black. And when I looked at the bag, I found an envelope inside. It was labeled "To Kelly." I immediately took out the envelope and looked inside. There were some $100 bills and a letter from my mother-in-law. The letter said something I had never expected. I am so sorry for everything I have done. I knew my son had issues. I wanted you to escape, so I was hard on you. I'm really sorry that I had no choice but to behave like that, because Walter's surveillance was very too strict. I'm also sorry that I could only give you this much money under Walter's watchful eye. I received a call from your lawyer yesterday. I couldn't tell him the details, but he said he would visit us tomorrow at noon. So please take the baby and run away. Leave the rest to me. I'm so sorry, Kelly. I hope you understand. The letter from my mother-in-law was written in blurred letters.
as if she had written it while crying. I realized for the first time that my mother-in-law was also my husband's victim. I checked the other garbage bags and amazed at the contents. I found envelopes in the other bags as well, containing cash. I realized that my mother-in-law was trying to take care of me all this time. I learned that she was being as kind as she could be in letting me see my baby under Walter's watch. Because of Walter's personality, even if she was his mother, he probably looked down on my mother-in-law because she was a woman. In addition to the cash, the envelope also contained several photographs of my baby. I cried as I felt my mother-in-law's concern for me. I gathered my thoughts for the next day's meeting with the lawyer and went to sleep. The next day I woke up to the sound of the doorbell. When I answered it, I found my mother-in-law standing there, holding my son in her arms. "Walter is going on a business trip today and won't be back for 2 days. This may be your last chance. Kelly, I'm so sorry for everything." My mother-in-law bows repeatedly to me as she holds out my son to me. But what about you? Walter will get furious with you if we are gone." "That would be true, but he's my son. It's my responsibility. Besides, I can't even work at my age. I am too stupid to make a living without Walter's help." "No, that's just..." I decided to invite my mother-in-law in and listen to her carefully. She told me that her husband and Walter had brainwashed her over the years. "You can't do anything." As they imprint these words, she spent most of her life only for the two of them. Because of this, she has lived a life without freedom for a long time. She was not even allowed to watch TV when her husband was alive. After he passed away, she realized something was wrong with her life from a TV show she was watching. But she couldn't even get out of it on her own. Then I came along as her daughter-in-law. My mother-in-law was trying to get rid of me by hinting me coldly so that I wouldn't follow in her footsteps. She told me this in tears. "Let's run away together so that Walter won't ruin the rest of your life, okay?" My mother-in-law responds to my persuasion with confusion. No, there's no way I can do that. I can't do anything. I don't want to cut in your way, Kelly." My mother-in-law was not convinced. Meanwhile, my lawyer arrived. I told him the whole story. The lawyer had a rather grim expression on his face. "What do you want to do? Please tell me how you really feel. I'll do my best to support you." After a few moments of silence, my mother-in-law told us what was on her mind. "The truth is, I want to get away from Walter. I love him because he's my child. But it's too painful living in constant denial about my life. It's also hard that I won't be able to see my grandson anymore." And with that story, she showed us the bruises on her arms. The bruises were so bad that I was surprised, and I asked my mother-in-law about it. She said that Walter became violent with her when he got angry at the babies crying at night. She said Walter had often been violent to her, even before our marriage. The lawyer's face was clearly filled with anger. "You should run away. I'll show him the pain. You too. Run away from this immediately." He began to persuade her to leave, but his efforts to persuade her were in vain, and she went straight back to her house. A lawyer and I decided to get ready to run away. I called my cousin's house, told her what had happened, and asked her to move in for a while. My cousin, in tears, accepted. I quickly packed up, took the baby, and headed for my cousin's house. A few days later, I got a call from my lawyer. He asked me if I could be willing to participate in a meeting to discuss my divorce from Walter. During this call, I was told by the lawyer that my mother-in-law would also be attending the meeting. When I visited the lawyer's office, Walter and my mother-in-law were already there. When Walter saw me, he said, "I was worried about you. I'll kick her out if it's about my mom. So, the three of us will live together from now on. Okay?" I ignored him and sat down. Our lawyer started talking about divorce, alimony, and child support. Meanwhile, Walter was screaming at me to come back. "Walter, the lawyer is speaking now. It's important. Can't you even listen?" When I replied, Walter's face turned red, as if he was about to go berserk. But he seemed to be holding back in front of the lawyer. After the lawyer had explained everything, and the conversation had settled down, my husband opened his mouth. "What's the matter with you? Why can't you understand that I love you so much? Do you really think you can get a divorce over something like this?" Walter asked me. "Huh? Don't make me laugh. I've never felt any love from you. I've cut off all ties with the outside world, and I've endured your abuse day by day. Why are you so selfish?" I replied with a laugh, and Walter stood up. The lawyer said quickly, "Walter, please sit down." My husband sat back down in his chair and opened his mouth to my mother-in-law. "Kelly is leaving because of you. How about you say something? What do you think you were doing? Giving money without consulting me and ruin my child's happiness?" My mother-in-law replies, "I'm just trying to save his life and happiness." Saying that, my mother-in-law held out the recorder. It was a recording of Walter's sarcasm and horrible words toward me. My mother-in-law had been preparing for this day since before I was pregnant. With this much evidence, even if we go to court, the divorce will be final. Do you agree to the divorce here and now? Or do you want a divorce after it goes to court, and the company and others find out about it? Which would you prefer? The lawyer combined all my evidence and confronted Walter about the divorce. Then Walter said as if he had given up the idea, Okay. I'm divorcing you." Nodding his head, he agreed to the divorce. "I will never see you again." As I said this, my mother-in-law opened her mouth as if to put an end to it. "I've been putting up with this for a long time, but I'm glad it's over. Walter, I'm leaving you. I'm going to live on my own," as she said, holding out a piece of paper. "Don't get involved with me anymore. Otherwise, I'll take this and file a police report." The paper was a medical certificate for my mother-in-law's injuries inflicted by Walter. Then the lawyer tells him matter-of-factly, "Your mother is fully prepared to file a lawsuit." Then Walter started to cry. "Mom, why did you betray me too?" At the sound of Walter's grief, my mother-in-law's face contorted for a moment. "Betray you? Isn't it betrayal to violate a family member? How can you cry without understanding what you have done?" "We have been living in hell for a long time," I said to him too, and stared at my husband. I took my mother-in-law's hand and left the office. After a while, my mother-in-law sold the family house. She moved to the countryside, relying on her relatives. Since her husband had left her a substantial inheritance, she was going to spend the rest of her life in comfort. As for me, after my divorce from Walter was finalized, I found a job far away from here. Now, with the help of others, I'm leading a new life with my son. I almost ruined my life with this marriage, There is no need to get used to the absurdity of suffering. I want my son to be a gentle person with compassion and kindness for those around him.